That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
This is going to be a brutal week. My God. If you are looking at the amount of buys that we have to go through and make these start-sit decisions, it's going to be pretty tough. So we're going to rank our top 24 running backs. We're going to be including some running backs that, I mean, on paper, you don't want to start, but you probably have to. And yeah, we're going to go through, talk about the best matchups, the running backs that are trending hot, the usage that we're looking to chase. But before we do that, y'all know exactly what we have to do. We have to give away some Fantasy Flock Network hats for anybody who dropped a like and a comment on the last video. Let's go through, pick 2 random winners right now. And of course, we're giving these away every single video. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. That way you can come to the live streams every night as well. Drop that like, leave that comment to get entered in to win a Fantasy Flock Network hat and support this channel. Now, Cameron coming out with our first one says, just traded Cordell Patterson for Calvin Ridley this morning. Let's go. Happy to see that, my friend. And then another one is going to be coming out from Zippies, who says, is Jalen Waddle and Zach Moss for Javonte Williams a good trade? 6-0, by the way. Thank y'all so much for leaving comments on the last video, dropping those likes. Be happy to get y'all those hats out. Just make sure you send that email to the Fantasy Flock Network email address down in the description below with your physical address if you win that Fantasy Flock Network hat. That way I can send that hat out to you ASAP. And lastly, I will say we have some massive announcements that over there on Patreon this week. Y'all know we update our rest of season rankings every single week on Patreon, but we are also going to be updating our Dynasty Fantasy Football rankings. Yeah, now y'all know Dynasty Fantasy Football, that is what I genuinely enjoyed the most, and that's what we're going to continue to talk about in the off season. But I mean, can't update those every single week because it's so damn hard. But yeah, we will be doing that this week over there on Patreon. Now let's dive into these top 24 week 7 running back rankings. Let's start it off with Derrick Henry at running back 1. And I owe y'all a massive apology here. Last week, while yes, we had Derrick Henry in the top tier of running backs because of course we had Derrick Henry, the top tier running backs. With the matchup against the Buffalo Bills, I came out and I tried to get cute with it. I said, oh, you know what? Derrick Henry, I mean, he hasn't been getting targeted out of the backfield as he was through the first 2 weeks. Also, I mean, yes, he crushes the Jags, he crushes the Jets, but maybe it's a little bit different with A.J. Brown coming back in. Y'all know how excited I was for A.J. Brown, and also just given the fact this was going to be a tougher matchup. Well, dear God, Derrick Henry shows us that Derrick Henry is someone that you can never talk poorly upon because he comes out 20 carries, 143 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns so far this week. I mean, let me look up what he has had this season through 6 games and 6 games only. It's honestly going to be laughable because if you're going to be pulling this up through 6 games, he's leading the NFL in carries, rushing yards, and rushing touchdowns. He has 10 rushing touchdowns through 6 weeks. He has 783 rushing yards. He has 162 rush attempts. If you add on the receptions that he has, this is a running back that has nearly averaged 30 touches a game in Tennessee. Going up against Kansas City, this is not a fantastic matchup. You would imagine that the Kansas City Chiefs most likely blow out Tennessee in this contest, even though I know that, yes, Tennessee just beat Buffalo, so it looks like, I mean, a lot of recency bias. People are going to want to come out here and tell me I'm an idiot and saying that Kansas City is going to blow them out. Let me actually look up the spreads that we have on these games. We need to move on anyway, though, just because, I mean, Derrick Henry, running back 1, in his own tier. He will be in his own tier until we get Christian McCaffrey back and good to go. But let's have Derrick Henry at that 1 spot. Now, dropping down to our second tier running backs here, we are going to have Alvin Kamara at running back 2. Now, Alvin Kamara will be going up against the Seattle Seahawks. Alvin Kamara is coming off a bye week. So, I mean, we don't really have any recent numbers to look at with Kamara. We'll just scale it back slightly, see what we have had so far this season. And with Kamara, it's been up and down. I mean, this is a running back that you've had some bad weeks where he hasn't even gotten to target out of the backfield. You've had some weeks where Taysom Hill's getting the red zone usage. Here's still Alvin Kamara. We know that he has the upside that not many other running backs can touch in fantasy football. There are also some other very good running backs on bye this week. I mean, you have Austin Eckler, Najee Harris, both on bye. You also have Dalvin Cook on a bye. So it's almost that you just kind of have to put Kamara here, even though there's some reasons to be concerned. I mean, this is a running back that you're just going to go through and jam in. Like, if we're looking at what we have gotten from Alvin Kamara so far this season, the last week we saw he had 8 targets out of the backfield. He has averaged a little over 5 targets a game. Of course, you'd like that number to be higher, but it is what it is. This is also a running back that hasn't had a ton of rushing touchdown volume, but he has had 3 receiving touchdowns, so the touchdown and the red zone usage is still there. So we are going to be going with Alvin Kamara at our running back 2 spot against the Seattle Seahawks. I would expect this is a low scoring game, however. Now, our running back 3, someone that we've been talking about buying for a very long time now, talking about why he is an aggressive target of ours, is going to be Darrell Henderson. Now, here with Darrell Henderson, this is a running back that's been the running back 8 so far this season on a points per game basis. Going up against the Detroit Lions, this is the perfect matchup. Maybe you get something that we saw this past week whenever the Los Angeles Rams blew out the New York Giants, and that they did begin using Sony Michel a lot in the fourth quarter. I mean, just looking at the game being out of hand. But still, with Darrell Henderson, he's essentially getting close to 20 touches every given week that he is healthy. Also, this is the most productive offense in the NFL the majority of the time. And if you're going to be looking at the spread on this game, this is the second largest spread I think we have seen of the season. Right now, they actually have the Rams as 14.5-point favorites. I mean, some lines have them at 15.5 points. I mean, I haven't seen a line this large since you had Josh Allen taking on the Houston Texans. So, yeah, I mean, Los Angeles is going to put a beat down on the Detroit Lions. They're going to be looking to run the ball consistently in the second half. I think we are going to go Darrell Henderson as the primary bell cow running back for one of the best offenses in football at 3. Now, coming in at 4 will be Aaron Jones. Now, here with Aaron Jones, this is a running back that you've seen a decent amount of touches going in the direction of his backfield teammate in A.J. Dillon. Still, I don't want that to worry too many people with Aaron Jones. Like, I know a lot of people are asking if we were going to have Aaron Jones on our sell high running back list after A.J. Dillon has shown us 3 weeks in a row that he has had 10 plus touches in each contest. And y'all know I'm a fan of A.J. Dillon, but at the same time with Aaron Jones, I mean, it's the same exact situation we were talking about with DeAndre Swift coming into the season, that you don't have to be worried about these running backs if they're getting the targets out of the backfield and at the same time getting the red zone usage. Those are the two categories you were looking at, not raw touches. We're looking for valuable touches instead in these offenses. So it doesn't really matter if A.J. Dillon is going to be getting the carries between the 20s here. And I mean, you've had that elite usage in the red zone as well as in the receiving game for Aaron Jones so far this season. I mean, he's had 21 receptions through 6 weeks. So he's averaging about 3.5 receptions a game. He's actually had 5 total touchdowns through 6 weeks at the same time. This is a game where there's a massive spread between the Washington football team and the Green Bay Packers. So Aaron Jones will be our running back 4. Now, going down one more tier, let's go down to tier 3, where we are going to have Jonathan Taylor leading us off against a very good San Francisco 49ers defense. Now, with Jonathan Taylor, this has been a running back on fire over the past few weeks. I mean, Jonathan Taylor drops 20 points against the Dolphins in week 4, 31 points against the Ravens in week 5, 29 points against the Texans this past week. I mean, clearly he has been an elite option in the Indianapolis Colts offense. He has had some very soft matchups on the other hand. And at the same time, you're still getting that usage from Nyheim Hines. You're still getting that usage from Marlon Mack in this backfield. And I will go out on a limb and I'll say, just like what we've always said with Nick Chubb, Jonathan Taylor, this is a running back that is one of the most talented running backs in the NFL. But if he is leaving away this many touches for the other running backs in his backfield, and some of those are coming in the form of receptions, that's not going to be great for his fantasy value. Now, y'all know Jonathan Taylor. We loved him coming into the season when we were getting him at the beginning of the second round based on his talent profile. But still, going up against San Francisco, this won't be a great game for him in that the 49ers have a great defense. And at the same time, if we're going to be looking at the spread of this game, I mean, here right now, they actually have the 49ers as 3.5-point team favorites. I think that if you're going to have Indianapolis trailing a little more, they're not going to be able to lean on Jonathan Taylor in the second half as you would like to see. And maybe they get Nyheim Hines a little more involved in the passing game. Still going to be a top 5 running back for us. Just saying why he's not any higher than that. Now, running back 6, let's go with, it's tough for me to put him here, but just some of these other running backs have tough matchups. We're going to go Joe Mixon at running back 6. Now, Joe Mixon's coming off a very impressive performance. If you're looking at what we just had from Joe Mixon, I mean, the usage he had in the receiving game, just the efficiency he had on a per-touch basis as well, fantastic. He had 18 carries, 94 rushing yards. He had 5 receptions, 59 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown to go along with it against the Detroit Lions. Keep in mind, this is going to be a tougher matchup going up against the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens just completely shut down the Los Angeles Chargers. If we're going to be looking at the spread of this game, you actually have the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens in what should not be that close of a contest. Right now, the Ravens are 6-point favorites. Still, I think with the usage that we saw from Joe Mixon in the receiving game, this is a running back that you want to get excited about, and he's going to be in a better game flow than our next running back. At 7, we will have DeAndre Swift. Now, with DeAndre Swift, I would say if he was any other type of running back, like if he was equivalent to someone like Derrick Henry, say he was that running back that was getting the majority of his value based on rushing touchdowns, based on carries, based on his just rushing yardage, there I'd be very worried about this matchup for DeAndre Swift in the Los Angeles Rams. We already just showed that the spread on this game's essentially 2 touchdowns. This is a very tough matchup for any running back to be going up against. At the same time, with DeAndre Swift here, I mean, his offense should not be able to effectively move the ball down the field, but it doesn't really matter. He's going to get the usage in the receiving game. I mean, if you're looking at a per week basis of the amount of targets that he gets in Detroit, this is someone that's currently second in the NFL in targets out of his backfield. His lowest targeted week has been 5 targets, and that was back in week 2. This is someone that you can essentially look as kind of a combination of a wide receiver 3 and a running back 3 that's going to give you running back 1 numbers when you put those two things together. So we will go Swift at running back 7 here. Now let's drop it down to our next tier, and let's lead it off with our running back 8 here in Leonard Fournette. And now with Fournette, he is coming off a performance where he was the second highest scoring running back of the week. I mean, he has been fantastic over the past 3 weeks. 20 carries against the Patriots in week 4. He's had 12 carries, 4 receptions against the Dolphins in week 5. This past week against the Eagles, he had 22 carries and 6 receptions. I mean, the usage is 100% trending in the right direction. I will say, if we were guaranteed to have the same role for Leonard Fournette in this contest that he's had over in the previous 3, this is a running back that would be in the tier above, but just because what we have seen with Bruce Arians through 2020 at the same time, whereas you have had Bruce Arians be very unpredictable in the running back usage that he is going to have between Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette. I mean, last year was LaShawn McCoy. This year it's Giovanni Bernard. I think that is going to make us a little worried. Keep in mind, I still have him as a top 10 running back. We still like him for the week, but we will be having him the tier below of guys that we know 100% what to expect with, like DeAndre Swift, Joe Mixon, and Jonathan Taylor. Also, tough matchup against the Chicago Bears, even though, I mean, you know, that Chicago is an offense that's not going to be close to Tampa this week in particular. Still, they will be slowing the game down. They won't be allowing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to have that many possessions in this contest. Now, our next running back at running back 9 is going to be a surprise to a lot of people here, but we are going to be going with Darrell Williams against the Tennessee Titans. I know that a lot of people are going to be screaming at me for this call, but with Darrell Williams, this was a running back that we were very excited about a week ago. This is a running back that we were talking about being a significantly better option than any other waiver wire pickup, including Devontae Booker, because he was stepping into one of the most productive offenses in the NFL. He was stepping into a 3-down workload, and yeah, that's exactly what we got. We had more carries for Darrell Williams this past week than Clyde Edwards-Helaire had pretty much all season. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has never had 20-plus carries in a contest in 2021. Darrell Williams comes out, he gets 21 carries. He gets 4 targets out of the backfield at the same time. The majority of the fantasy production is fueled based on the touchdowns, but that maybe is predictable when you're playing in an offense like the Kansas City Chiefs that are going to have so many red zone opportunities to go around. The matchup against the Tennessee Titans, I don't necessarily think is that poor of one. I think that you will have the Kansas City Chiefs leading the majority of this game. So we'll have Williams after Fournette here in the same tier. Now, our next running back, I know a lot of people will have probably up in the same tier with Joe Mixon and DeAndre Swift. I just can't get there. We're going to have Cordell Patterson. Patterson, fantastic matchup against the Miami Dolphins. Cordell Patterson has also been a very solid running back. I mean, kind of looking like a similar version of DeAndre Swift, where he's averaged over 20 fantasy points a game. I mean, if you're looking at this past week, I mean, against the New York Jets, it's really hard to say anything of substance with Cordell Patterson here. And that against the Jets, you did not have Calvin Ridley in that contest. So they were desperate for offensive skill positional players. I mean, he actually had 7 receptions. He had 14 carries against the Jets back in week 5. That equaled about 18 fantasy points. If we were guaranteed that level of usage, Cordell Patterson 100% would be up in that tier with DeAndre Swift, Joe Mixon, Jonathan Taylor. I just think based on the snaps and based on Calvin Ridley coming back in, it's a little too rich for me to rank Cordell Patterson up in the same tier of running backs like DeAndre Swift because Mike Davis still is getting a considerable amount of work. Y'all know I was the #1 hater of Mike Davis coming into the season. Nobody hated Mike Davis as much as I did, but I still want to be a little hesitant. With that being said, Cordell Patterson, a top 10 running back for us. He will be running back 10. Now, running back 11 is going to be Chuba Hubbard here with Chuba Hubbard. This was a running back we were calling a must-start option a week ago, given the fact that you were looking at him and you were saying 2 weeks ago he had 29 touches in this offense in a very close game against the Minnesota Vikings. Now, this week in particular, it's not as exciting in that you're looking at Chuba Hubbard and going, well, yeah, he got there from a fantasy perspective. I mean, he actually was the running back 22 this week. That was mainly just based on the rushing touchdown that he had. I mean, he only had 16 carries. He had 1 reception as well. So going up against the Giants, with that being said, I mean, this is just going to be a very strong matchup where you would assume that the Carolina Panthers are leading the majority of the game. I mean, you actually have this week in particular, the Carolina Panthers to be favored by 3 points against the New York Giants. I think maybe that's honestly a line where you could take the Panthers -3, knowing how banged up this Giants offense is. So yeah, I think that you will have Chuba Hubbard as the lead running back in an offense that's going to be leading the majority of the time. Now, our running back 12 in this last spot in this last tier is going to be Josh Jacobs going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, with Josh Jacobs, this is a running back that, I mean, the numbers with this opportunity were fantastic a week ago. The fantasy production was not necessarily there. I mean, he was the running back 19. He did see 16 carries, 53 rushing yards. He had a rushing touchdown at the same time. Only 1 target out of this backfield, however. With Kenyon Drake stole so much production here just based on the vulturing of touchdowns both in the receiving and the rushing department. I think that Josh Jacobs is the running back that you saw with the snaps. Josh Jacobs is the running back that you saw with the majority of the touches, and also he was elite with his red zone usage a year ago. So Josh Jacobs will be my guy at running back 12. Not a tough matchup at all against Philadelphia. So now let's go down 1 tier. Let's go down to our running back 13, where we will have Antonio Gibson going up against the Green Bay Packers. Now, I'm going to keep it very brief. We don't know what's going on with the injury. I'm recording this October 19th that morning. 100% we'll be giving updates all week with Antonio Gibson. So we're going to rank him at running back 13. This will be updated as we go through the week, however. Now, running back 14, we're going to have Elijah Mitchell going up against the Indianapolis Colts. Elijah Mitchell had every single snap essentially for the San Francisco 49ers going into the bye week. He should be 100% healthy coming out of the bye week. We know that he only gave up 2 snaps to Trey Sermon. He looks like the 3-down running back. Should be a close contest. With Elijah Mitchell, I'm not willing to just come out and buy into the fact that he is a top 12 running back right away. This was someone that you didn't love coming into the draft. I mean, right now he's the running back 32 in points per game. This is someone that is at most had 2 targets out of the backfield. The usage in the receiving game really doesn't look like it's going to be there, but we will rank Elijah Mitchell at running back 14. Now, running back 15, great matchup. I want to be fading him just given the fact that this production is not sustainable, but we will have James Conner going up against the Houston Texans. Now, this past week, James Conner did come out and he saw the majority of the work in this backfield, but keep in mind, Chase Edmonds was essentially a game time decision. Chase Edmonds was very banged up. Now, against Houston, with all that being said, I think we possibly see something similar this upcoming week where James Conner actually had 16 carries this past week for 71 rushing yards against the Cleveland Browns in a game where the Arizona Cardinals just blew out the Houston Texans. And oh my gosh, let me look up what the spread of this game is. It probably is 30 points. I mean, I cannot even find a valid spread that is going to be up. No, you have 17 to 18.5 points for the expectation in this game. That is unbelievable. I think you have to play James Conner, who does have that touchdown upside. We will have Chase Edmonds as well as running back 16. I mean, with Edmonds, we like him in the majority of contests that you are going to have a close game between the Arizona Cardinals and someone else, knowing that Chase Edmonds will be getting the usage in the receiving department, but here in particular will be tough in the Houston matchup and that they won't have to drop back and pass the ball a ton. Now our next running back 17. I know a lot of people are going to want him higher than this. I just can't get there. Let's go with Damien Harris. Damien Harris, a great matchup against the New York Jets. I mean, this is a running back that y'all know I did not like coming into the season based on the fact that he had no receiving upside at all. And if you're looking at what he has done so far this year, this is a running back that has 8 receptions through 6 weeks. He's averaging a reception and a half a week. I mean, maybe not even a reception and a half week, like a 1.25, I believe, receptions. I could be wrong. I could be an idiot. However, I mean, 9 targets a game. This is laughably bad for Damien Harris. I just think that he is 100% touchdown dependent. He scores a touchdown, great. He's a mid running back too. He doesn't score a touchdown, then crap. I mean, he is giving you 10 points. Now, our last running back in this tier, honestly, I probably should rank him higher. Thomas, I'm sorry to do this to you, but we're going to be moving him up most likely to a spot where he's not going to be at the very top of this tier, but let's move Miles Sanders up directly behind Elijah Mitchell. Let's put him above James Conner. With Miles Sanders, he's been very disappointing over the past 3 weeks. I mean, really over the past 4 weeks now, 5 weeks if you want to include the 49ers. Now, it was kind of clear that he was going to be disappointing against the Chiefs, and that was going to be a game the Chiefs had a majority of the lead against the Philadelphia Eagles the most of the time. Then the Panthers, a very good run defense. The Bucs, a very good run defense at the same time over the past 2 weeks. This will be a better matchup against the Las Vegas Raiders. The spread on this game is actually currently 3 points. I think that is a spot that, I mean, you're a little bit more excited with, because here's a realistic expectation that you could have with Miles Sanders of actually being able to go out there and see the majority of the touches in his own backfield in a competitive game where they're not just completely abandoning the run. Now, let's drop it down one more tier. Let's go down to running back 19. Let's lead off with Alex Collins against the New Orleans Saints here. Now, Alex Collins this past week against the Pittsburgh Steelers proved to us that he will be a running back that will have no usage at all in the receiving game. And what have we talked about at length for weeks now? We do not want to be playing anybody for the Seattle Seahawks with Geno Smith in there at starting quarterback. Now, Alex Collins did have a very impressive week where he went over 100 rushing yards. But with that being said, if he did not have that one rushing touchdown, you would have been looking at a week where he had 10 fantasy points. It's just, the issue is these running backs that don't catch any balls out of the backfield, that have no usage in the receiving game, they are not valuable in fantasy. I do not want anything to do with them. He's just a touchdown dependent, between the tackles grinder on one of the worst offenses in the NFL with Geno Smith under center in a bad matchup against the New Orleans Saints. So we will have him down at running back 19. Now, running back 20, I don't even know what to say here. We're going to have Devonta Booker right now. I'm expecting that you're probably not having Saquon Barkley play in this contest against the Carolina Panthers. Of course, if Barkley plays, Barkley is going to be higher on this list than this. We'll be giving constant updates throughout the week. But Booker this past week, I mean, he didn't get every single touch out of the backfield. It was a contest where they were just blown out of the water by the Los Angeles Rams. Maybe this isn't fair to put Booker this low, knowing that he did have 4 receptions out of the backfield, but it's so hard to take anything away from that Rams game just because you had that as a complete blowout between those two offenses. So I think, while, yeah, we'll have Devontae Booker at running back 20, it really doesn't mean anything because we're just going to have to be giving this updates throughout the week. Now, running back 21, we are going to be having Mike Davis. Now, here with Mike Davis, this is someone y'all know we hated coming into the season. We were telling everybody to avoid him everywhere you can. But with that being said, I mean, with Mike Davis, this is still going to be a running back that is seeing the majority of the snaps in Atlanta Falcons backfield that's going up against the Miami Dolphins this week. So I'm not a fan of him in the slightest, but still I think we almost have to play him just because the volume he's guaranteed in a plus matchup. Now, our last running back in this tier, running back 22, will be Dearness Johnson. You could easily see Johnson having a much more impressive week than this with no Nick Chubb, with no Kareem Hunt in this backfield, and at the same time running behind one of the most impressive offensive lines in the entire NFL. But with that being said, we don't necessarily know if he is going to have 3-down usage. I mean, Kareem Hunt didn't get hurt until the end of the week this past week, so we didn't necessarily know what the backfield was going to break down as without Kareem Hunt. So it's a very fragile projection. If you knew that you were going to be able to project whatever the starting running back would be for the Cleveland Browns, and if they were going to be seeing 75 to 80% of the backfield touches here, then of course you would go through and you would put them up significantly higher than this. The problem is, I mean, we just have no idea. So we're going to have him at running back 22. Now, let's go our last tier here. Our last tier 2 players. We're going to go back to back. Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon. I mean, I think we probably prefer having Javonte Williams this week. It will be very close for us. I mean, rest of season, 100%, we'd rather have Javonte Williams as he will continue to expand his own role, and Melvin Gordon will continue to see his role shrink in this offense. But if we're going to be talking about these 2 players for just this week in particular, it's like a 50-50 split. I go Javonte over him, but they're both options that are limited in ceiling, as well as you're just not that excited about what you'll have with this matchup in general. Now, thank you. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. Please go down there, drop that like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton. And also go check out Patreon. We have those rest of season rankings updated. And at the same time, we also have our Dynasty Fantasy Football rankings updated. So yeah, that's all I got for y'all. Have a great day, and I'll see y'all with the video tomorrow.